Hello! In this video, I'm going to introduce the basics of geometry. Some of the main points that we're going to cover include points, lines, rays, line segments, angles, intersection and union, and triangles. The first thing we're going to go over are points. Points are represented by dots, and they're labeled using capital letters. Here we have three different points: point A, point B, and point C. Now we can go over lines. Lines follow a straight path, and in order to form a line, you need two or more points. Lines go on forever on both sides, and that's indicated by the arrows on either ends of the line. Now, in order to name this line, we can call it line M, or we can call it line WX, WY, or line XY. Now, when you're labeling these lines, you always have to have a small miniature line on top of their names. Rays. Rays are slightly similar to lines because they go on for around one side, but also remember that they have one endpoint. So when you're naming a ray, you always start with the endpoint. So in this image, since we have our endpoint L, we start with that, and then we include the next letter, which is M. So we have ray LM. Now, moving on to line segments. Line segments, unlike rays and lines, have endpoints. They do not have any arrows. That means they do not go on forever on any of the sides. Here we have line segment AB. Now, this can also be named line segment BA. So when you're naming a line segment, you can always change the order. But remember, when you're naming a ray, you cannot change the order. When talking about angles, there are different types of angles. So the first type of angle that I'm going to go over are straight angles. Straight angles have a measure of 180 degrees. Here we have angle ABC. Now, we can label it as angle ABC or angle CBA, or we can also name it by the vertex of the angle, which is B. So we can call it angle B. However, we prefer not to name it using the vertex. Now, when moving on to the next angle, we have right angle. Right angles are half of straight angles. Right angles have a measure of 90 degrees. Now, right angles are usually easy to identify because they have a square rather than a curve to indicate their angle measure. Now, here we have angle XYZ. You can call it angle ZYX, or you can also call it angle Y. The next type of angle that we're going to go over are acute angles. Acute angles are smaller than right angles, so they have a measure between 0 to 90 degrees. Here we have angle DEF. Now, angle DEF can also be named angle FED or angle E. Obtuse angle is the last type of angle that we're going to talk about. Obtuse angles are greater than right angles. They have a measure between 90 to 180 degrees. So, because they're less than 180 degrees, we also know that they're smaller than straight angles. Here, we have obtuse angle PQR. PQR can be also written as angle RQP or angle Q. Now, we're going to go over two different concepts named union and intersection. Union is the combined result of two rays, lines, line segments, etc. So here we have ray AB and we have ray AC. So when they're together, they're combined, they form angle BAC. The symbol for union is a U. Now, we also know from the second image that's shown on this slide, line segment EF, union line segment FG forms line segment EG. Intersection, on the other hand, is a common line or point shared by two lines or planes. So here we have line AC and line DB, and they intersect at point O. So therefore, the intersection point is O. Now, then also we have on the second image, plane Q and plane P intersect at line M. The symbol for intersection is similar to the union symbol, except for it's flipped upside down. The last thing we're going to go over are triangles. Triangles are polygons that are made up of three sides. The three segments that make up the sides here in this image include segment AB, segment BC, and CA. A triangle also has three different angles and three vertices. Here, the vertices are A, B, and C, and also the angles are angle BAC, angle ABC, and angle BCA. Now we're going to use some of the concepts that we discussed today in this video in order to answer a few questions. The main question here asks us to name each intersection or union using the proper notation. The diagram below provided is of a parallelogram ABCD with diagonals AC and BD. The first question asks us what is the union of segment AB and segment AD. If you trace over the diagram, we see that it forms angle BAD. You could also label it as angle DAB, but make sure not to name it as angle A, because then it is unclear whether you're referring to angle BAD or you're referring to another angle such as BAO or OAD. Moving on to the second question, it asks us what's the intersection of segment AB and segment AD. We know that these two segments share a common point, which is point A. The third question asks us what's the union of segment OA, OB, and BA. These three segments form a triangle, which is BOA. You could also name it as triangle OAB or OBA or several other different names. The fourth question asks us what is the intersection of segment AC and segment DC. Segment AC and segment DC share a common point, which is point C. The last question asks us what's the intersection of segment BD and segment AC, and that's point O. The last question here asks us to draw a diagram in which the intersection of segment EF and line segment GH equals line segment GF. The first step would be to draw a line segment EF, which is represented by the orange line. Then you draw a line segment GH, which is represented by the blue line. And then I drew a huge line, which is line segment EH, with intersection point represented by the green line in the middle, GF.